Hi, my name is Heather Hogue, and this is my presentation on how to remain stress-free in the workplace. Well, I'm pretty sure everyone's wondering, why is this so important? Well, symptoms of stress could include poor work performance where employees aren't reaching their full potential. There could be conflicts with other employees or employers, sometimes unfound complaints, and even sudden abuse of sick leave. There are also a few common warning signs that include feeling anxious or depressed, a loss of interest in the work, fatigue, trouble concentrating, head or muscle aches, stomach problems, becoming antisocial. Lastly, an employee may use alcohol or drugs as a way to cope with the stress. Now, what causes these symptoms? According to Human Resources Management for Public and Nonprofit Organizations, a strategic approach by Joan E. Pines, 3 possible causes of stress in the workplace is educational challenges, violence, and bullying or cyberbullying. Another article by helpguide.org explains that causes of stress include fear of being laid off, more overtime due, pressure to perform to meet rising expectations, pressure to work at a satisfactory level at all times, and a lack of control over how an employee does their work. First, there's educational challenges, which may be a cause because workforces require greater skills to successfully get the job done. Workforces also prefer fewer low-income students that attend college and, if have enrolled, acquire a great amount of federal student loan debt. With changing demographics, attention has been called to inequities in higher education. In today's society, college will be more important than ever, and nearly 60% of jobs require at least some college. The New Economy describes a bachelor's degree as equivalent to that of a high school diploma. In Pine's text, it's estimated that shortage of workers with higher education skills could grow to 14 million by 2020. The workforce must provide education and training after high school so the nation can maintain a competitive economy. There are even jobs that 6 out of 10 will require training and higher education. In Pine's text, they define violence in the workplace as any act or threat of physical violence, harassment, intimidation, or other threatening disruptive behavior that occurs at the work site. The violence can range from threats or verbal abuse to physical assaults or homicide. The text states that homicide is currently the 4th leading cause of fatal occupational injuries in the U.S. The Census of Fatal Occupational Injuries explains that out of 4,547 fatal workplace injuries in 2010, 506 were homicides. Homicide is also the leading cause of death for women in the workplace as well. 2 million of individuals every year are victims of violent crimes while working. Organizations that have failed to take precautions against violent situations find themselves facing a lawsuit based on negligent security. Those that conduct research or track incidents of violence are the U.S. Merit Systems Protection Board, the U.S. Department of Justice, the FBI, and the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. Violence is the expression of built-up stress, and organizations must review their human resource management to diffuse it. Now, with bullying, especially cyberbullying, it has been noted to increase in the workplace, according to Joan Pines, and define bullying as persistent, offensive, abusive, intimidating, or insulting behavior, or unfair actions directed at another individual, causing the recipient to feel threatened, abused, humiliated, or vulnerable. Actions that are considered bullying in the workplace are either verbal, gossiping, physical threats, criticism that comes off harsh, abuse of authority by giving unreasonable assignments, or providing inaccurate evaluations. Some also include interference with work performance by hiding information or documents, or even sabotaging another employee's work. Other actions include misuse of technology through social media or emails, or even text messaging, and physical intimidation. One of the main effects from violence and bullying in the workplace is increased stress. Now, the main question we all have here is, how do we remain stress-free in the workplace? Number one is to just relax, and people have different ways of doing so, which could be taking a walk, listening to their favorite music, or staying physically healthy or hydrated. Number two would be to manage your time efficiently, which would be to avoid overloading your work so that you're able to get it all done on time. Number three is creating positive relationships with other employees. When feeling valued and supported by fellow coworkers, you're very likely to be more productive and enthusiastic when working. Lastly, communication is key. Since you work with the same people every day, it's great to know everyone is on the same page so that work can be done successfully and efficiently. Pines then drops down on the topic of employee assistance programs and how they are very important when preventing stress. It's important that these prevent stress because it helps employees handle personal matters that come to work with them. Some of these involve marital conflicts, alcohol or substance abuse, family conflict, health-related concerns, which could be also mental illness, financial stress, employer-to-employee communication. These problems decrease productivity and could lead to high costs for employers or legal liabilities. These assistance programs are also provided to employees' families, and the main focus used to be and still is alcoholism or substance abuse. Employees with stressful lives are frequently absent and decrease the workflow. There is also now wellness programs, just like the EAPs, are just as important because they are designed to improve an employee's physical and psychological health. By improving these traits, it has been decreasing the occurrence of medical problems and lowers the cost of medical claims. And my next slide focuses on Barack Obama and how he manages to deal with stress.
In your 7th year in office, what have you learned about pacing yourself and managing the stress of the job?
You know, the truth is that I'm lucky to, by inclination and temperament, be fairly steady.
Your Hawaiian roots?
Yeah,
basically?
exactly. I think that's probably what it is. Good weather and
just
beaches.
like today. Yeah.
So I don't get too high, don't get too low. I've been very consistent about exercising in the morning. That helps. But I think that the most important, I'm very consistent about spending time with family. And when you have dinner with your daughters, particularly teenage daughters, they'll keep you in your place and they'll teach you something about perspective. But I think the most important thing is to take the long view on things. We live in such a 24/7 Twitter-fed constant news cycle, and everything's a crisis, and everything's...
You're not on Twitter.
Well, I'm not, but,
Yeah.
but everything's a crisis, everything's terrible, everything is doomsday, everything is, if it doesn't get solved tomorrow, your presidency's going off the rails. I mean, there must have been, 15, 20 things that over the last 7 years, folks have said, this is it, it's over. We had the Gulf oil spill, worst environmental disaster in history. Everybody said, oh, he's handling this terribly. A year later, nobody was talking about it, and in retrospect, it turns out that we handled that as well as any environmental crisis has been handled. Ebola, remember that?
I do.
Obviously, it's still a serious problem, and we've got to get down to zero, but that was probably one of the most effective international public health responses in history, and that was led by us. If we hadn't acted, it would still be raging and everybody else would be at risk. And so those experiences, I think, remind you that my job is to keep my eye on the ball and to stay focused on what can we get done every single day to advance the vision and the values that brought me here. What can I do to make sure that middle-class families are feeling more secure, that more young people are able to access opportunity, that we are safe, that we are working with our international partners to try to create more order at a time when there's a lot of chaos? How do we deal with terrorism in a way that's consistent with our values? As long as I stay focused on those North Stars, then I tend not to get too rattled.
I was wondering how many hours of sleep you're getting a night.
Probably not enough.
That's what I figured you'd say.
I will say that when people leave the administration, and I see them 6 months later, they've got the post-administration glow. They really look good. So I'm hoping the same happens to me.
There's hope for you.
Thank
you, Mr. President.
Great to see you, sir.
Take care.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Lastly, some lessons that can be learned here is that stress is very normal in the workplace because it helps employees stay focused, energetic, and challenged. Secondly, there's always a way to reduce stress and gain a sense of control in the workplace. I would like to thank you for watching my presentation.